Guys, it's Julian, and today I'm super excited to be showing you the much requested how to make techno like UMEK. So, as usual, you get the project file and samples and MIDI presets, all that kind of stuff in this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available there shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So, this loop you heard in the intro, we're at 128 BPM, pretty standard tempo for this style of techno, and the first sound we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So what we've got going on here is we have your standard rumble kick. Basically, I have this kick. Just one of these like super punchy, kind of like hard-hitting techno kick samples. And then I've got it going into this audio effect track. And what's happening here is we have two chains. So the first one is just the dry chain, but the second one is the wet chain. And with this one, what we have on here is first we have a reverb. So I'll kind of show you what it sounds like. So here is with nothing. And then the first thing we have is the reverb, which sounds like that. You can see I got the dry wet all the way up. We got the decay time up. And yeah, after that I have this amp which sounds like this. So you can hear what that's doing is it's kind of like, for one, it's blowing out the reverb, but what it's really doing, as you can hear, is bringing up that rumble in the low end. Like before this, it doesn't really have that. But then we get that rumble, and then the next thing we have here is this auto filter, which is cutting out the high end, and that sounds like this. So now you can hear we're getting just the rumble. So we're bringing out the rumble with the distortion, and then the low pass is just cutting it back so that we get just the rumble. After that, we have this auto pan, which sounds like this. So that you can hear is what's making it just kind of bounce off of the kick. It's kind of like side chaining into the kick. Basically, what I'm doing here is I just have the phase on 0. So it's just affecting the volume. It's not affecting like the stereo like panning or anything like that. But yeah, got this one on quarter notes. Again, it's just kind of like dipping the volume up. And yeah, and then the last thing I have on there is just an EQ8, and I'll show you. Here's without this. And then with it. So basically what was happening was this was happening a lot. Like in the kind of like low mid-range and maybe near like 100 hertz or so. So I want to clean out that range because that's where the kick is really hitting. So I just kind of cut out around 100 hertz. And then I have a low end boost just to make it hit harder in the sub range. After that, you can see we just have a bit of drum bus. I just have actually a little bit of drive, a little bit of crunch. I got the boom up a little bit as well. Pretty simple stuff, just kind of fending it up. And then the last thing we have on there is this EQ8. And with this, you can see I'm just cutting out the low end and then cutting out around like 200 hertz. So just kind of cleaning up like the boxy frequencies. I'll show you. Here's without it. And then with it. So it just kind of refines the kick back a little bit. After that, we have the second little kick thing, which sounds like this. So basically what this is you can see I have it grouped in with the kick here, and basically all it is just the kick sample, the same one we're using for the actual kick. But what I've done here is you can see I've taken it and I've bandpassed it a little bit. And then we have it playing those little extra kind of notes like that. So this is something that UMEK does. This is something that a lot of techno producers do. I do this a lot in my tracks as well. But having something like this really helps to kind of add some groove because you get like those little, like that, you know, at the end of the bar. That kind of rhythm, I feel like, yeah, it really adds a lot. So yeah, after the bandpass filter on that one, I have the saturator. You can see I've got the wave shaper on. It's not actually really doing as much as you would think. It's kind of just like distorting it and just making it a lot fatter. But yeah, then we just have a bit of drum bus. You can see you just got the drive, the crunch, even got the boom up a little bit on that one. And then I have this EQ8. So yeah, you can see it's pretty much the same processing as the main kick. It's just that bandpass is kind of dialing it back, so it's kind of more in the background and more like in that sort of like woody range, sonically speaking. After that, I have those in a group, like I said, and then we just have a bit of drum bus here and a bit of EQ8. So the drum bus is just kind of fattening it up. Here's without it. And then with it. And then the EQ8 is just cutting some of the, like, kind of boxy low mid-range out of there. And that is it for the kick and that little kick stab thing. The next thing we have here is all the percussion, which sounds like this. So basically what we have here is we have two claps. We have this one And then this one, kind of like two different types of ones. You know, this one's a bit deeper sounding. And then this one's a bit like crackier. I also have a bit of reverb on the deeper one and a bit of delay, or echo, I guess in this case, on the sort of crackier one. And then we also have this little percussion, which you can hear just kind of filling in some of the spaces there. You know, it just adds a little bit more percussion, a little bit more of like a driving feel to the beat. And then I have those in a group, and on the group I just have a bit of drum bus. So here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear it's really helping to just fatten all the drum sounds up, or all this percussion, and then also just kind of, you know, bring it all into the same kind of world and make it sound more cohesive sonically. So that is it for the percussion. The next thing we have here is the hi-hats, which sound like this. Basically what we have here is we have like a closed hi-hat playing 16 notes, and then this one. Which is a little bit more intense playing on the upbeats. But yeah, and so for the closed one, what we have is I have basically two layers. We have this operator hi-hat, kind of a little bit deeper. You can hear it. It's just some white noise going into a bandpass filter. And then I have a tambourine to kind of add some bright hi-hat onto that. You can hear it just kind of fills it out and makes it a bit stronger. And yeah, I've got a bit of saturation on the tambourine, a bit of saturation on the operator hi-hat as well. And yeah, and then after that we have this one, like I said, it's playing on the upbeats. And this one's pretty simple. It's more about the sample selection. Like you can hear, this isn't a soft hi-hat by any means, you know, it's hitting pretty hard. You can hear it kind of bouncing off of the kick. You know, we definitely need like some power in that hi-hat. You don't want to just use like a small 808 hi-hat or anything like that. You want something that's really strong like this that can cut through the mix. So then I have those all in a group, like I said. You know, when you just take all the similar sounds, like in this case, the kicks or the percussion or the hi-hats, and put them in a group or a bus and process them together, you can make everything sound a lot more cohesive and just make everything, kind of tie everything together a lot more. So the first thing I have here is this drum bus. Here's without it. And with it, so you can hear it just kind of fattens everything up a little bit, makes it a bit stronger. Yeah, pretty simple stuff. And then we just have this EQ8. And with this, I'm just cutting out the low end and doing a slight high-end boost for some sharpness. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear, yeah, we have that little sharp high-end boost. Pretty simple stuff there. And that is it for the hi-hats. The next thing that we have here is this Respace, which sounds like this. This is a pretty popular sound in this style of techno. Basically, here are the notes it's playing. It's just playing this kind of like F minor scale type of thing. You can see a lot of the notes in here are actually just notes from the F minor chord. Like we have F, the root note, G sharp, the minor third, C, the fifth, and then the only other note that isn't in the chord actually is C sharp, which is just one note up from the fifth. So not too complicated there. But yeah, this is the type of thing you hear in a lot of UMEK tracks. It's a good way to kind of have like a deeper kind of bass in there without it getting in the way of the kick. Because if you listen, the mixing of the kick and this Respace are really, really essential. And like you really need to make sure that they work together. And so having a sound like this, which isn't just like a low end bass, but more kind of in the mid range as well, is a good way to do that. So for the sound on this one, I made this one using analog. What we have here is we just have two saw waves detuned a little bit. And then those are just going into a bandpass filter. You can see I've got the bandpass set like this. We got the frequency up a bit. We got the resonance up a little bit as well. And then the only other thing inside of analog, there's a bit of unison. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear it kind of fans it up and makes it sound a bit stronger. After that, we actually have a little bit of reverb. I feel like it kind of gives it a nice texture. You can see I've got the decay time down. Here's without it. And then with it, so yeah, I feel like it sounds kind of cool going into the distortion, and it helps to give the Respace a little bit more of like an airy kind of sound. After that, we have this amp, and so here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear this really fattens it up. It's kind of just taking it and giving it like a cooler texture as well, you know. It can be hard to get away from just like the dry saw waves going into a low pass type of sound, like something like this. So So this amp just kind of helps to take it to like a warmer and darker place. After that, we have the saturator. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear this is doing the last bit of kind of like fattening this bass up and just making it hit. And really be stronger like that. So yeah, after that we have this EQ8. Here's without it. And then with it. So what this is doing, as you can hear, is it's kind of just dialing this back a bit. There are certain ranges that are a little bit too loud and certain things that I wanted to boost that were too quiet. For example, you can see there's this high-end boost here. The high-end was a bit quiet. But you can also hear like the low mid-range and the low end are really loud. So I have those being cut out. I'm cutting out the low end and cutting out the low mid-range. And yeah, this is kind of like, you know, again, fitting it with the kick. So then after that, what we have, the only other thing we have on here is just this auto pan. It's the same one that I had actually, or a very similar one to the one that I had on the kick, the reverb chain, where it was just kind of like giving it that fake sidechain effect. And that is it for the Respace. The next thing that we have here is this little FM stab, which sounds like this. This is also the type of sound that you'd hear in a lot of UMEK tracks and a lot of other techno producers as well. Basically, this is just following the Respace, because you can see what we have here is the Respace is playing like this pattern. That thing. But then we also have, you can see the stab kind of playing the same notes at the same time. And just kind of adding something extra, like a little bit more ear candy, something a little bit more rhythmic on the end there. So yeah, and then for the sound on this one, I made it using Operator. What we have is a pretty simple sort of like donk bass sound. I'll show you. Here's what it sounds like with nothing on it. So yeah, again, pretty simple FM sort of donk bass type of stab. Basically, what we have here is we just have 3 sine waves. You can see I've got the envelopes kind of set differently. And then we have these 2 up a lot on the coarse pitch. And yeah, really simple stuff. It's not that hard to make a little FM stab like this, but it's a good sound because it's very percussive. But you can also use it melodically. But yeah, after that we have this resonator. So here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear the resonator is just making it sound a bit more metallic and kind of giving it a cooler texture. It's kind of like adding the reverb onto the Respace. It's like, you know, stuff like this is what really helps to make this not just like a sine wave pluck or like an FM pluck, but like more of a stab and more of something that has like its own kind of vibe and not just, yeah, it's not just like a dry FM stab basically. So what we have here is I have this on the B mode. That one tends to be a little bit more metallic. As you can hear, got the decay there, no filter, and then I have this tuned to F minor. So we just have F, and then the minor third and the fifth. We're in F minor, so yeah, pretty simple stuff there. After that, we just have this chorus, just adding a bit more kind of like, yeah, just a little bit more of sort of that chorusy sound, I guess. This goes really well with the more metallic sounds. Like, it's a good way to kind of add more of that smooth metallic texture to it. After that, we just have a bit of echo, pretty simple stuff, just doing dotted 8th notes. Then I have a drum bus to fatten it up. You can hear the difference with the before and after of that. And then the last thing we have on here is just an EQ8 cutting out the low end and kind of cutting out some boxy frequencies as well, around 297 hertz. And that is it for the FM stabs. And then the last thing we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So, pretty simple stuff here. It's playing the same MIDI clip. You can see basically what this one's doing is it's just playing with like the F minor chord shape again, because we have F, the root note, and G sharp, the minor third, and then G, which is technically the ninth. But you can also see G is just one semitone down from G sharp. So yeah, just kind of a nice way to write in those sort of minor sounding melodies. For the sound on this one, I made it using analog. This one's pretty simple. You can see we just have 2 saw waves going into a low pass filter. Low pass has an envelope on it. That's where you hear that, like wah wah wah, kind of like that. And then I have those going into just a bit of vibrato, just to give it some kind of like cool vibe and character, and then a bit of unison to give it that chorusy sound. After that, we just have an echo doing dotted 8th notes and a bit of reverb. So those 2 things are just adding kind of the space to it. Then we just have a drum bus to fatten it up a bit. Here's without that. And then with it, you can hear pretty essential. And then the last things that we have on here are just an auto pan doing another one of those faux side chains, and then an EQ8, which is cutting out the line and then doing a bit of a high-end boost. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear it's just kind of sweetening it up at the end of the chain. And yeah, so that is it for this one. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, all that kind of stuff on my Bandcamp in the description. It's right at the top. You can't miss it. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because these will be available there shortly. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.